In 2022, Byju was the most valuable education startup in the world. Investors valued it at $22 billion. Just 2 years later, the same company was pushed into insolvency. And the case that pushed it there was an unpaid cricket sponsorship bill of 158 crore rupees, less than 1/10 of 1% of what the company had been worth at its peak. So what actually went wrong? If you go through the public record, you find the top 4 mistakes, and every one of them was visible in public filings well before the company went into insolvency. They are also the kind of mistakes an MBA in finance is trained to catch. So in the next few minutes, I'll take you through all 4 mistakes. Let's start with the timeline. Byju started in 2011 in Bangalore as a company called Think and Learn. The founder, Byju Ravindran, was a teacher, and his maths classes were so popular that he ended up teaching them in stadiums. The learning app came out in 2015, and by 2018, it had 15 million users, with around 9 lakh of them paying for subscriptions. Then came the COVID lockdowns. Schools shut down, and in the first 4 months of the lockdown alone, the company reported 20 billion new students joining the app. The company was backed by large global investors, including Prosus, Peak XV, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and BlackRock. And by 2022, it was valued at $22 billion. Now, the second half of the timeline looks very different. Between June 2023 and July 2024, everything came apart. The company's auditor and its independent board members quit. Its shareholders tried to remove the founder as CEO, and India's Company Law Tribunal admitted the company into insolvency. Exactly how all of that happened is the story of the 4 mistakes. So let's start with the first one. You can see the first mistake in just 2 numbers from the company's own accounts. For the year ending March 2022, Byju's reported operating revenue of 5,014 crore rupees. In the same year, it reported a loss of 8,245 crore rupees. Put those 2 numbers together, and for every 1 rupee the company earned, it lost roughly 1 rupee and 60 paise. The auditors attached a warning to those accounts. That warning said the numbers raised doubt about whether the company could survive. So where was the money going? A good chunk of it was being spent on bringing in new customers. In the year ending March 2021 alone, the company reported spending more than 2,500 crore rupees on advertising and marketing. From 2019, Byju was the jersey sponsor of the Indian cricket team, and that is the deal the unpaid 158 crore rupee bill came from. It became an official sponsor of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in a deal reported at around $40 million. And in November 2022, it signed Lionel Messi as its global brand ambassador in the same month that it was laying off staff to cut costs. Now, an MBA looks at all of this with one basic question. Take a single subscription that Byju sold. The customer paid a price for it, and the company spent money to make that sale on advertising and on its sales team, and then more money to deliver the classes on the app. Did the customer's payment cover all of that cost? If it did not, then the company lost money on every subscription it sold, and selling more subscriptions only made the losses bigger. Byju's revenue was growing, but earning every rupee cost the company more than a rupee. So, as revenue grew, the losses grew with it. That was the first mistake. Growth without unit economics. And it was there in the company's filings. By 2022, Byju had bought at least 19 other companies, and it spent billions of dollars of investor money doing it. Those acquisitions are the second mistake. It bought Osmo, a US company that makes learning games, for a reported $120 million. it bought White Hat Junior, an Indian coding classes startup, for a reported $300 million. And its biggest purchase was Akash Educational Services, the Indian offline test prep chain, which it bought for a reported $950 million in 2021. When the accounts for the year ending March 2022 finally came out, analysts noticed that just two of those acquisitions, White Hat Junior and Osmo, accounted for roughly 45% of the entire year's losses. That's around 3,800 crore rupees of losses from just two purchases. And then there is Akash, the best performing of all these acquisitions. For the year ending March 2022, Akash reported a profit of around 80 crore rupees. But when Byju's ran out of cash, Ranjan Pai of the Manikpal Group stepped in with a rescue investment of about $300 million. By January 2024, that investment had converted into a stake of roughly 40%, which made him Akash's largest shareholder. The lesson an MBA takes from this is about capital allocation. When Byju's paid $950 million for Akash, the bet was that owning Akash would eventually earn back more than that price. That takes years of work after the purchase, merging two companies' operations and costs into one business. Byju's kept buying new companies, but the results never showed that work being done. That was the second mistake, buying companies without integrating them. From the middle of 2023, the board of a company once valued at $22 billion was down to three people: the founder, his wife, and his brother. The third mistake, governance, is the story of how that happened. Investors don't run a company day to day, so they rely on three things to know what is going on inside it. The audited accounts show them what the company earned and spent. The auditor independently confirms that those accounts are true, and the board of directors oversees how the company is run. At Byju's, all three broke down. First, the accounts. The accounts for the year ending March 2021 were filed around 18 months late, in September 2022. They showed a loss of 4,564 crore rupees. The accounts for the next year took nearly 2 years to be filed. So Byju's had essentially stopped giving its investors audited numbers to go by. Then, in June 2023, Deloitte resigned as the company's auditor, and it named the long-delayed financials as the reason. That same week, all three board members from outside the founding family resigned. These were the representatives of Peak XV, Process, and the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Outside board members are the people who watch a company on behalf of its investors. After they left, what remained was that three-person family board. Here is how the investors responded. BlackRock, one of its investors, cut its own estimate of the value of its Byju shares by around 95%, which valued the company near $1 billion. In January 2024, the company itself offered new shares at a valuation of roughly $225 million, which is about 99% below its $22 billion peak. The next month, shareholders holding more than 60% of the company voted to remove the founder as CEO. The company rejected that vote as invalid, and the dispute went to court. By this point, Byju's had late accounts, an auditor who had walked away, and a board with no independent members left. Each of those weakened investor trust, and when that trust ran out, investors stopped putting in money. That was the third mistake, letting the reporting and the board fall apart until the company could no longer raise funds. The fourth mistake was debt, and it is the one that finally pushed the company into insolvency. In November 2021, when its valuation was near its peak, Byju's borrowed $1.2 billion from a group of about 37 institutional lenders through a structure called a Term Loan B. A loan has to be repaid on schedule from the money a company earns. And as we saw in the first mistake, Byju was losing money on every rupee it earned. The $22 billion valuation couldn't make those repayments because a valuation is only an estimate made by investors, and it's never money the company can spend. The relationship with those lenders broke down quickly. Byju missed conditions on the loan and accepted that in later amendments to the deal. The two sides ended up in court in the United States, and in September 2024, the Delaware Supreme Court upheld the ruling that Byju was in default on that loan. There is one more piece of this story that you should know. $533 million of the loan money was moved to Camshaft Capital, a small hedge fund based in Miami, and from there to an offshore entity. A United States bankruptcy court later ruled this a fraudulent transfer, which is a civil finding about how the money was moved. The founders disagree with these findings, and the cases are still going on, so I'm only telling you what the courts have decided so far. And that brings us back to where we started. On the 16th of July 2024, India's Company Law Tribunal admitted Byju's parent company, Think and Learn, into insolvency. The petitioner was the Indian Cricket Board, over the 158 crore rupees still unpaid from that jersey sponsorship. A settlement briefly closed the case, but the Supreme Court of India set that aside in October 2024 because once insolvency is admitted and the creditors committee is formed, a single creditor can't settle and end the process on its own. The company is still in that process today. Now, think about how small that final bill really was compared to the $1.2 billion loan. By then, the company had already defaulted on its loan and lost the confidence of its investors, so even a small unpaid bill was enough to push it into insolvency. That was the fourth mistake, funding a loss-making business with debt and then losing the trust that debt depends on. So let's put the whole story in 4 sentences. Byju scaled a business before any unit of it made money. It spent billions of dollars on companies it never truly integrated. It let its reporting and its board fall apart until investors stopped trusting it, and it took on debt it could not repay. Byju was once valued at $22 billion. In the end, it was pushed into insolvency by an unpaid bill of 158 crore rupees. And the 4 mistakes that brought it here had been visible in its public filings all along. So, how do you learn to read a company this way? Everything we did in this video, reading unit economics, judging acquisitions, checking governance, understanding debt, is exactly what an MBA trains you to do. In the AI integrated MBA at JAIN Online, the first semester of most specializations has a course called Financial Reporting and Corporate Finance. That is where you learn to read a profit and loss statement. Governance has its own course called Business Law and Corporate Governance. And capital allocation is covered in a course called Strategic Management. You practice all of it with the AI tools that analysts use every day. Tools like Power BI, Tableau AI, and ChatGPT. More than 50 of these tools are integrated across the program. If you want to know more about the program, the link is in the description. And tell me in the comments which company you want us to break down next.